Less than a year after Splatoon 2's release, a DLC story mode was announced. The Splatoon 2 Octo expansion was released in June 2018, and was well received for its higher difficulty and stylistic departure from the previous campaigns. Without further ado, let's go over the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion. The Octo expansion is set around the time of the main game's story. After a confrontation with Agent 3, an Octoling is awakened by Captain Cuttlefish, who explains that they were stranded somewhere after being attacked by an unknown threat. Realizing that the Octoling has lost their memories and is no longer antagonistic, he agrees to team up with them in order to find a way out. After reaching the central station of the Deep Sea Metro, they find a talking telephone that offers to take them to the Promised Land and instructs them to board a nearby train. The conductor, Sea Cucumber, reveals that the Deep Sea Metro is an underground testing facility, and that the Octoling has to complete tests and find 4 things to open the way to the Promised Land. With the title of Agent 8, and with guidance from Captain Cuttlefish and Pearl and Marina of Off the Hook, the Octoling sets out to collect the 4 things, locate Agent 3, and find a way to the surface. Visually, the Octo expansion is distinct from the main game because of its underground setting. The art direction is similar, but many stages feature darker lighting and more subdued environments. Outside of some returning songs, the soundtrack is generally more subtle and atmospheric as well. In terms of gameplay, the Octo expansion features 80 stations throughout the Deep Sea Metro, and each has a test of Agent 8's abilities. Instead of multiple hub areas, levels are accessed through a menu while on board the train. The stages are divided among 10 interconnected train lines, and new lines are unlocked by completing levels at intersections. Unlocked stages can be completed in any order, and there are multiple routes to the 4 things, so specific stations and parts of lines are optional. Many levels are somewhat traditional, with a goal point at the end instead of a zapfish, but there are additional objective types as well. Common missions include completing single-player versions of Tower Control or Rainmaker, moving an 8-ball to a goal, and breaking targets within a time limit. Other objectives are used more sparingly, such as completing a stage with limited ink, recreating a sculpture by breaking boxes, and protecting an orb from enemy attacks. There are also 4 stations that feature stronger versions of the Octo bosses from the base game. When Agent 8 finishes a test, they receive a special currency called CQ points, and a mem cake, which contains some of their lost memories. At the start of every station, Agent 8 enters a device called an equipper. Each equipper provides up to 3 weapon sets for that level. There's also a turnstile, where they have to spend CQ points to initiate the test. When there are multiple options, weapons that are less ideal for a particular stage require a higher entry fee, but completing a level with a more difficult weapon awards more CQ points. Some equippers provide no weapons, or infinite versions of specials, like the Inkjet or the Baller. While some levels are relatively straightforward, the difficulty is generally higher than in the previous campaigns. Lives are not restored by reaching a checkpoint, and the amount of lives varies from 1 to 5 depending on the mission type. In addition to taking too much damage or falling off the stage, certain stations have other failure conditions, like losing an 8-ball or running out of ink. After losing every life, there are options to return to the equipper or continue from the last checkpoint for a fee. After losing 2 sets of lives, it's also possible to skip the stage with Pearl and Marina's help. The next levels are still unlocked, but the mem cake will be grayscale until the stage is completed. Collecting every mem cake is not required to finish the story, but doing so unlocks exclusive clothing for the multiplayer and an optional boss fight. Unlike the base game, there are no hidden collectibles within stages. Instead of sunken scrolls, chat logs between Off the Hook and Captain Cuttlefish are unlocked after clearing specific stations, and these reveal additional details about the characters and world. Power eggs can still be found and provide CQ points when collected. In addition to armor and canned specials, Certain stages also have canned main weapons or sub-weapons. After finishing the story, Sea Cucumber will give Agent 8 special mem medals at specific stations. These and CQ points can be used to obtain multiplayer items from a vending machine. For the most part, the Octo expansion is an excellent single-player experience, but it's also somewhat inconsistent. The difficulty can feel uneven because of the non-linear stage structure. While it's the longest story mode in the series when trying to collect all 80 mem cakes, it's still relatively short, since many levels are incredibly brief or optional for simply finishing the story. Overall, the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion is my favorite single-player mode in the series so far. The level design is creative and challenging, but the campaign is still generally accessible, with many ways to mitigate the difficulty. The underground setting, and the focus on an Octoling protagonist and Off the Hook provide a unique and engaging perspective for the story. For its budget price, or as a free download with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, the Octo expansion is worth experiencing for fans of the base game. With that, I've now revisited every Splatoon game up to this point. I enjoyed going through all of the campaigns and the multiplayer modes to see how the gameplay has evolved in each entry. I'm excited to see how the series continues to improve in the future, but because of how much content was added to the previous games through updates, I've decided to wait until Splatoon 3 is mostly complete before reviewing it. In any case, thank you for watching.